not going to waste much time today. I'm going to go straight to read the profile of our guest today. But before I say that, I want to say that this program again is put together by i-Xtra, Inspire Extra Empowerment Initiative. Inspire Extra is an NGO, non-for-profit organization. And what we do is to try as much as possible to see how we can bridge information and knowledge gap, how we can bring information to people, how we can partner together, how we can help ourselves as individuals and business people, and how we can be better, partners together. So today, I will have the honor to introduce our guest, Dr. John Isemede. He is the immediate past Director General and CEO, 2010 to 2015, of the Apex Chamber of Commerce in the country, the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture, NACCIMA, and was also one time the national consultant on the OPS matters to United Nations Industry Development Organization, UNEDO, Export Development and Value Chain Management on the Quality Infrastructure Project for Nigeria, 2015 to 2018. An international sales expert, agriculture or agribusiness and marketing expert, speaks the major Nigerian languages of Hausa, Yoruba, and Edo, and 2 international languages, French and English, to cover operations across the globe. He is currently of the i-Xtra project using his past EQUA's ETLS template as past achievements, ways to open up market for his employers in the sub-region in the 1990s. He designed a roadmap for students, investors, and trade associations on the benefits and ways nations can break down trade barriers after signing into agreements on integration and economy, cooperation across borders and blocks facing trade challenges and competitions or competitors. Prior to UNEDO, he worked in United Bank for Africa PLC to lay foundation to international trade, on to manage exports of produce and finished products in the Unilever Group in Europe and across 20 Africa countries from Lagos. He also was in Promasidor, that's what we call CAL, with the initial job station in Benin Republic for West Africa operations, and later to Cameroon, where he managed the Central African bloc for the group. He was the head, he was the head of Dangote Export and Research Unit for 5 years, developed new markets and zones across Africa, had a short national assignment in the public sector to work in the FMARD, that's Food Reserve Agency Unit, to coordinate Nigerian export and grain business project with export of FAO of United Nations in Rome under the Special Food Security Program for 2 years with a job station in Abuja. Ladies and gentlemen, further, he attended the famous Edo College, Benin City, holds a BSc, Business Admin of the University of Benin, PG Diploma in Export Marketing of the University of Lagos, French Certificate of Proficiency of Alliance Française, Chambers Management, course in the Technical and ECOWAS University or Economic University of Ankara, Turkey, and MBA in International Business and Globalization at the Paris Graduate School of Management, France. I can continue to read this. The profile is quite intimidating. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me at this time to cut short on this very long profile. I told him before we started that your profile is quite intimidating and very long. I'm sure if I want to read all of them, by the time I'm done, we would have closed this program without having the privilege of listening to him. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let us make welcome this evening our friend in the house, a seasoned professional, an expert in this field, somebody that is passionate about what he does and loves to do it. He loves to share knowledge and shares it without reservation. And that's the reason why he has made so much sacrifice to be with us today. Join me as we welcome Dr. John Isemede as he takes over the stage at this moment. Welcome, Dr. John.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yes, I am extremely happy to be here today. First, and Nigeria is a blessed country. I am not standing here today to tell you the problems, because there are problems all over the world. But people come out, people like you and me come out to make solutions. So if you look at Nigeria, Nigeria became a country on the 1st of October 1960. And by the 4th of October, even before we joined the United Nations, we were already fighting. On the 7th of October, we passed. We are a member of the Commonwealth. We are a member of the African Union. So also we have just signed the agreement after close to 60 years of the African Continental Free Trade. If you look at the topic before us, what is driving the economy of Japan is the small and medium scale industry? What of China? What of Turkey? What of Brazil? Why we are not at the forefront with the type of brains we have in Nigeria and resources is that we have put the multinational corporations and the big men in front, the big boys, and the organized private sector is yet to identify the small and medium scale industry. If we look at Nigeria with a land mass of almost 1 million square kilometers, with a foreign reserve of just $35,000 US, a clear indication that Nigeria is a very poor country. And the only way we can move out of poverty is we begin to focus on the SMEs. Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa with about $448 billion. But if you translate that or you share it among the 206 population, Nigeria is a very poor country. Thank you for the first slide. Establishing small-scale industry. There are opportunities, and that opportunities can only come to you. You are too fast. Please go to 1. Please. It's when I tell you to move. So you leverage the era of looking for international donors. This thing, looking for international donors and people to help you is all over. COVID-19 has been a lesson to the world that you have to take care of yourself before you know other people who exist. People went inwards. They were producing vaccine for their country. They were producing the PPA and all that. And we were waiting in a country where we have close to 40 million SMEs for us to get it from the West, which is wrong. Next slide. Next slide. The introduction today is that I am John Isemede. I don't have to go into all that. And the topic today is that we are looking at the SMEs, which is the hope of Nigeria. We are going to look at the definition. We are going to look at map of Nigeria. We are going to look at the cycle of the SMEs, the importance of SMEs to individual, to the economy and the nation, areas of possible investment, factors responsible for the failure of small-scale industry, recent effort by the government and order to rejuvenate the SMEs, government support, institutions for development, leverage on government support, and how to run the value chain, the conclusion. Next slide. Next slide. Look at the introduction. It is not worthy to mention here that as we join hands together and contribute and listen, that there will be immense development of the SMEs, the small and medium scale industry sector after this meeting, especially as unemployment rate is increasing in this part of the world than any other place you can think of. Every year, millions are turned out of the university. People don't even look at secondary schools any longer and primary school. Then what hope do we have? What is the population of Nigeria? 206 million. And if you look at 30% of the workforce of Nigeria, and you assemble them in one place, it's more than 600 million, it's more than 60 million people. And if you want to put the unemployed people in Nigeria in one place, it will be the fourth biggest country in Africa. So the preamble, 80% of the global economy rests with the SMEs. But here in Nigeria, because we have not been able to put all of them in one umbrella, we talk of smuggling, we talk of commodity shortage, so also we talk of informal business. And the informal business, the SME, controls 80% of the world total business. If the world trade is 100 trillion, what is the percentage share of that business to Nigeria? It's less than 1%, 0.03%. With production base, what are we actually producing? Even the big multinationals and all that who are beginning, not to help you and me, but the SC crude oil exports, we import a lot of raw material, other people's product. What can we show with the size, the caliber, and the number of universities in Nigeria, with faculties of agric, engineering, and all that, with over 100 MDAs? This is the time now to begin to strengthen our stakeholders. ECOWAS trade is only 5%. 5 minus 100, that is 95. 95% of the world total in ECOWAS still rests with the world. In Africa, it's 19%. 90% is not a pass mark. That is why now today we are talking of Africa Continental Trade. Why are the government officials, the universities, the employers of labor, the SMEs, they are not working together like what we see in Brazil? The sugar you consume here is produced by families, SMEs in Brazil, not by the big boys. The Toyota and all that, if you go to India, people are producing a lot of things in their backyard. But there's what we call aggregation. They bring them together and have and use one common export cycle. Finally, what is Africa Continental Free Trade? What structure do we have on the ground for the SME? Which product have we identified? What trademark? Where is the MIE in place? How are we going to measure performance? Next level. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. This is Nigeria. Go to Nigeria map. You are pressing two at the same time. Nigeria, all right. This is world. This is world map. Sorry, this is Nigeria. Nigeria has 36 states plus Abuja. Over 60% of this land is arable. Why is Nigeria importing food? Why are we complaining of smuggling? Where we have not been able to put the SMEs in front through backward integration and import substitution. Nigeria has boundary with Cameroon of 1,697 kilometers. With Niger, we are talking of 1,500. With Benin Republic, we are talking of 730. We have a coastline of 850 kilometers. Why are we not thinking? After signing the ECOWAS agreement, we are not talking of centric marketing projects. How do we collaborate with our neighbors, like what we are seeing in the European Union and everywhere? We cannot stand as an island and claim to be the giant. The next slide. Next slide. No. Before this, the world map. The world map. Look at Nigeria. In terms of size, we are number 14 in Africa. In terms of population, we control 20% of the African population. In terms of size, we control 3.3% of the landmass in Africa. Look at Russia, almost twice the size of Africa. Nigeria population is 202 million. So we are among the first 10 in the world when you remove Russia, China, and the US. If you look at the size of China, China is 10 times the size of Nigeria. America is the size of 10 times the size of Nigeria. Brazil is almost the same. It's almost 10 times the size of Nigeria. But in terms of economy, we are number 26. In terms of landmass, we are number 44. So if you look at Nigeria, God is good to us. Going to Brazil, going to North America, going to Europe, going to the Far East, Nigeria is very central. Why are we not taking that opportunity that freight into this part of the world is still the highest? National area. Nigeria has no ship and there is no strategy. Forget about the West, forget about the multinational wonder. You go to departmental stores, you see apple, oranges coming from South Africa, and even within a local market, because the SME is abandoned, we cannot sell our mango in the world. And Benue State has the 12 of them. So if governors say they are not paying salaries, the issue is that we have not been able to put a team using the SMEs for us to run this country. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. What I've given to you is just the preamble. The definition of the SME, when you talk of small and medium scale, this is what I did with the DG of NACCIMA. A small state industry, they are divided into 3. Micro enterprises, and look at the capital. If you look at that one on the right, you look at formation and registration of companies. That in all over the world, the SME is at the forefront. It's not the big boys. The incentive is for the SMEs because 5 people can be employed within the family, producing things within their compound and backyard. But here, when you start something, that is where you now have the 3 tiers of government. But what you are putting up together, you have not even started production. You want to move from one part or the other. Some are following you to clamp your car, and some are mounting roadblocks, telling you to come and pay. Sometimes when you are entering Lagos, there are about 15 checkpoints from Alausa to my 12 market. How can we support that? There was a time during the time of President Jonathan when I took it upon myself that the small and medium scale industry, some of them cannot even raise 200,000 in a year. Why should the government MDA tell them to come and pay registration of a product? And these are products that are generic. What is vegetable? How do you identify vegetable of Benin from that of Oyo from Kano? How do you identify Jebu Gari? Who has the trademark? Let us now begin. Since we cannot produce job for everybody, let us encourage the SMEs. So when you now talk small enterprises, you are talking of those employed between 10 and 49 and less than 50. When you are talking of medium scale, you are talking of 50 to 199. From 50 less than 500. Next slide. What is the modern day small scale industry? See, historically, we don't want to go back to the days of Adam Smith. But what Adam Smith said, and Ricardo said in 1776, under the law of comparative advantage in his book, when you talk of wealth of nation, society grow when they invest. And when you say you want to do business, either in ECOWAS, anywhere in the world, the first thing that should be in the bottom of your heart is that there is no home advantage in any business. If there's home advantage, go to the market before you. The closest market before 99% or over 80% of what you see meters away. Japanese products are cheap. Sugar from Brazil. Why? Because we have not given the SME the rightful position. Most of the interventions and all that in the past have been for the big boys. Import substitution, reduction of import duty, tax holiday. Who gives SME tax holiday? Some of them come into this country with all sorts of gimmick, pioneer status. When they do 4 years, if they give them 5 years, they do 4 years. The next thing, freedom. A lot of businesses are not registered in Nigeria. And for you to do a business locally, internationally, you must register with CAC. You must have all your papers. You must file tax returns. Not that the SMEs are not ready, but who is putting them together? Those are the challenges. Next slide. In general, if you look at the life cycle of the SMEs, the startup, this is where we need hand-holding. But in Nigeria, everybody information close to his chest. Every Nigerian you see is either a director or a managing director. He's not ready to carry out research. He's not ready to invest. He wants to make money because an average Nigerian is always in a hurry to make money. When I tell people that when I was employed by Liver Brother, I was trained for 2 years. I went across the globe to see what lies beyond the horizon. But today, you have managing director who is more interested in SUVs than investing in research. Government support is now that we are feeling the government support with all the intervention, which you see in the toward the end of the slide. There are some that have accelerated growth. They are not ready to employ, and if they are employed, they are not ready to train. How will they give you the maximum? How will you give you the good result? I went into a company, I want to support training your human capital needs because we don't buy this from the market. When you are reading my this thing, I can speak French, I learn all those things because of the challenges in front. Says stable growth. There are a lot of external variables which is making some of these things. Today, fuel crisis, tomorrow electricity, this one change of this interest rate, the dollar is this today, tomorrow is making difficult, especially for the SMEs. The last one is the maturity. There is no business on earth that does not get from growth to maturity and decline. And you have to watch out. If you look at it, most SMEs in Nigeria do not survive more than 20 to 30 years. When they die, the children come, share the thing into pieces. But in the European Union and all that, some of these things are not family business. They are shareholders, so also even workers' interest is built into the business. Next slide. Where are the institutions to support? We have institutions in Brazil, in Korea, and other. How many technical colleges do we have in Nigeria? And these technical colleges, who are they supporting? How many technical colleges do we have in Nigeria? Who is supporting the farmer? Who is supporting the transporter? Who is supporting the SME in the area of packaging? So look at the startup. That is the phase one. Usually lasts for 1 to 3 years. During that period, there are a lot of hurdles. That a man who has not even started business is asked to pay taxes. He goes to the bank. People are asking for what he does not have. The interest rate is enough to scare him up. That's why the pressure on brothers and sisters in this country is so enormous. Nobody believes that you have problem. If he needs 1 naira, you give to him. If he needs 100 naira, because he goes to the bank, they know what's happened. Then what's of the accelerated growth? That's within the first 4 years. And business is not by faith. It's by rational calculation. Business, look at what I've just said. There is no light. Light has come again. By rational calculation, when there is rapid expansion, you need capital requirement, you need manpower, you need vehicles, because in this country there are no dedicated vehicles. You pay heavily, local government taxes. Then, when you now have a stable growth, the duration is about 2 to 5 years. Because in Nigeria, is that whatever you are doing, the other man is ready to copy. Patent law, trademark, and order is not what you see in the other country. There is no law protecting competition. The field is open for everybody to cash in. Next slide. What's the phase of maturity between 15 to after 15 years or within 25 years? People now relax. The product can sell itself. If you see Toyota, you see Mercedes, you see courier cars and all that. Every 6 months, 1 year, there are new inventions. A brand can die, but a product cannot die. You can still say Peugeot. Where is Peugeot 403 that was used? Where is 404 of yesterday? 404 was the brand. So when you talk of maturity, what both SMEs and businesses here is that people relax. And they begin to push workers. I can employ a young boy, I can employ a young girl, but experience is what you cannot buy. Loyalty is what you cannot buy. And one thing you should know, in international trade, in local trade, there's nothing like home advantage. You must be up and begin to face the realities of the business. Competition is tough. Because today, with the WTO, with ECOWAS, there is nothing like home advantage. There is nothing like local business. That is why some of us added additional degrees, languages and all that, because if I communicate with you, I can negotiate and sign agreement so that you cannot change me. Next slide. Importance to individual. Today we are talking of job creation, and Nigerians are being exploited. There is no labor law. When we were in Cameroon to employ a houseboy or a driver, we were asked to go to Ministry of Trade and apply, so that tomorrow if we leave, we know that those people are entitled to pension. And people work in this country, nobody respects them. The dignity of labor is not there. One thing is that SME creates employment. It is not the government to create jobs, it's government to create the enabling environment. Family can employ themselves if they have the conducive atmosphere. In the developing country, a lot of people focus on government. Government must do this, government must do that. And during the political campaigns and all that, they promise. And at the end of the day, you go there and it's nothing, because it's based on the budget, the enabling environment. A lot of people will find job for themselves. Next slide. All right, technical innovation and enterprise. Now the world is now a global village. The technology we are using here is not made in Nigeria. So there are technical innovation. One day I went to the University of Lagos, I moved around, I said, very soon half of this land will be used for other things. I don't see how a child will leave his house and go to school because he wants to read political science, business administration. I think a time we call it will be engineering, medicine, pharmacy, and a few other courses that people will leave here, because technology is now at the center stage. This is a country where I used to carry, this is a country where I used to go to SME during the time of night or through Cotonou to make phone call. Now, we are in diverse parts of the world and we are communicating. That is what technology has done. The fastest thing on earth today is money. You can wire money to anywhere in the world. And with the SME, there's opportunity
Okay. It's like we lost Dr. Isemede. He'll be back shortly. Let's just hold on a little bit for him. But I want to believe that we are having good time discussing these SMEs and the opportunity that does exist. I like the practical nature with which this is going, the way he's relating this to our everyday living. You know, the interesting thing is that a lot of people know the art of entrepreneuring. You know, you just start something, but people don't understand the process. There are a lot of things that add up to the process of entrepreneurship. And it is when we understand the how of entrepreneurship that we begin to make some marked progress. So it is not just enough to wake up and say, I'm doing this business. That is talent, that is gift, that is passion. But beyond the passion of I'm doing this business, I'm doing the other, there's a need for the how. How do I succeed as an entrepreneur? What is the place of innovation? What is the place of risk taking? Am I able, you know, to innovate in the face of challenging and changing technology? Am I ready and willing to take risk? You know, can I burn the bridge? Can I let go of my current job? Can I, you know, go dedicate myself to this idea when, you know, I don't know what to eat tomorrow? Of course, the process in Nigeria makes it a little bit more difficult. But the truth is this: we must go beyond the what's, the art of entrepreneurship, to the how of entrepreneurship. And that is one of the conversation that I want to believe that this one will lead to. I'm expecting Dr. to sign in again, and when he signs in, we'll continue from where he stopped. But while we wait for him, okay, am I still up?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. I saw things just disappeared. Okay, good. So while we wait, we begin to ask ourselves the question: how innovative are you amongst your peers? You know, how are you able to position yourself ahead of your competition? These are critical because we're in a very competitive environment. Like he said, you start an idea today, what happens? Somebody else starts it, and 10 people start it tomorrow. What will be your first mover's advantage? How do you position yourself ahead of other people? How do you raise capital? You know, how do you ensure that you are giving people what they want and you are giving them even more than what they want? How do you let people know that, okay, fine, you think you need these, there are better ways, you know, you can access services and products. These are critical things that we must look at. Risk taking.
Doctor is back.
Doctor back?
Yep.
Okay. Doctor, you're welcome back.
Please unmute yourself, sir. Yeah, doctor, your video is on. You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Dr. Isemede, please unmute your mic and go ahead, please. Your mic is still muted. Trying to get him.
That is the country we have found as. I show me. Yes. Next slide. Next slide. What are the benefits? Self-reliance, sufficiency. Because the PPE and all the things, temperature and all that we are using today, produced in China and other places, are produced by SMEs. They are not produced by those who are producing aircraft, computers and all that. So when you look at the SME is the center of business worldwide. Empower the poor and women. The women are very central. You go to the market, you go to the farms and all that. The youths, these are areas. When you talk of manpower, what of the marketing challenge? The market hands of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is the ambassador we are sent out of this country. If you look at the Vienna Convention of 1961, an ambassador is the father and the owner of the country. Where he hosts is not operating under that law. Vienna Convention of 1963, an ambassador is the marketing manager. Using those in diaspora, and a lot of money are remitted. If you look at the big players in Nigeria, if they have agents in Kenya, they have in Kano, they have in Brazil, a lot of people, look at the Chinatown project. Look at the Indians. The Exim Bank of India is giving them all the support all over the world. But here, that chain is not there. Today, we are looking at local. And after local, there's what we call centric. Your neighboring countries bordering you. You talk of ECO. That is the bloc we belong to. Now we have the 55 members. And within that, out of the 55 countries, you have 42 different currencies. How are we going to trade? But the private sector is at the top, while the SMEs are below. They do a lot of activities along the West Coast. Need for society and other businesses. In those who read economy, there's what you call localization of industry or location of industry, where the raw material of one, it could be a waste to you. And sorry, where the raw material of one could be a waste, where the byproduct could be. So there's need for us to operate in clusters. There's a room for us to operate in cooperative so that we can share facility, marketing, packaging, transportation, electricity, water. What of the gaps? Most of these MDAs were set up by General Ibrahim Babangida to help the private sector. Today, we see them at the port, collecting sample of what is imported into this country. The gold products come from China, from Turkey, from Brazil, produced by SME. Is that the way we carry cocoa out of this country? Is that the way we carry shea butter? Is that the way we carry pineapple? Why should the inspection of our local produce or whatever we produce be carried out at the port? When at the point of loading, is that where you carry out inspection? When you have collected money, you have issued certificate, and no inspection was done. How can you stop? That is why the private sector, the SMEs, are suffering in this country, that we are having rejections. Next slide. In general, what is investment? Investment is an instrument of change. And investment is equal to savings. In a country where minimum wage cannot buy a mattress, where minimum wage cannot buy you gas and buy what, even a pot of fried rice goes as much as 10,000. What investment do we have? And if you now want to borrow, where do we go to? Then the service industry in this country is still very disjointed. That is where you have the SMEs, the hairdressers, the electrical, the small hotel, the catering, and all that. Service, look at the tailors, they are not crying. Or the fashion designer, the hairdresser, the only way those are crying because the high cost of production. Who is promoting the business of SME? They were excluded in the past with all the intervention. But today, if I read more than 50 interventions by the state, the federal, and the international, you now know that the cost is now clear for the SMEs. Go on. Next slide. Look at the definition given by Adam Smith. You can only be competitive, or you can only beat others when your costing is right. But when you have to provide security, water, and everything, how can you be competitive? That is why the production industry in this country is still very, very weak. It is easier to import than to produce. But we cannot, because we are doing that, we are exporting jobs and creating problem and unemployment. What of the distribution industry? In the past, Nigeria had 35 aircraft. The railway system was very efficient and all that. Distribution was not a problem. But today, it can take you 8 hours within Lagos. In international business of import and export is the most difficult thing to do. Language is different. Currency is different. Incoterm is different, and so many other things. If you are exporting, it takes you 1 year or 6 months or 2 days to move into the port or to cross border. The first thing you realize is that you have no business complaining and telling your buyer abroad. That is your internal problem. But in the export business, when you talk about distribution and all that, if it takes you 6 months or 1 year to clear your goods out of the port, you will still pay for the demurrage and you put your margin. If you have the monopoly, you still have to sell. But in this part of the world, distribution cost to move a container out of the port is much more difficult and expensive than bringing a container for China. It is easier to bring a container from China or India, from America, than to move a container from Apapa port to Cotonou, which is 100 kilometers. Next slide. Next slide. Factors responsible for failure. You have internal factors, experience. Nobody wants to employ. And thinking that employment, provision of ABC belongs to government. More people are employed outside government cycle in other parts of the world. And when people are employed, they say because government cannot employ them. It's now garbage in, garbage out. Poor credit. Because if you are not registered, you can't approach a bank, you can't approach any institution for credit, because Nigeria is a country, you give somebody a form, how old are you? He will say it's adult. And you don't have a registered office. Where is your office? A car wash. Then lack of money. Wrong location. Localization and this thing, you locate your industry close to the market of the raw materials. Mismanage of inventory. When you bring orders from abroad, you don't know how to do the placement cost. Goods you imported last year to use it to produce today and still place price of $200. Before you finish that the sales, you know that the company will definitely go down. So what of over expansion? In this part of the world, people do copy and paste. In business, you don't do copy and paste. You don't use flyover to do business. You do staircase, one step after the other. So there are companies, there are family business that have been in Europe, in America, in Brazil for more than 200-300 years. Here we are talking of only 20 years. Over expansion. This man has cost of relocation of employing staff. What of other external factors? Power, water, infrastructure, road, access to finance, multiple taxation, obsolete technology, lack of workspace, weak capital base, no local and foreign market plans. Next. If you look at now, government has come up. I don't work in government, I'm not praising it, but this is policy, regulatory and supervisory framework of Nigeria. Small and medium scale enterprise investment scheme. People have benefited. 200 billion small scale enterprise credit guarantee scheme. 200 billion SME restructuring and reforming fund. County Texas Government Fund, counterpart funding scheme of banker for partnership office. Next slide. Next slide. special empowerment fund created by Central Bank of Nigeria, 200 billion to the billion of anchor borrower program, the full security program, the current one pronounced by the governor of Central Bank just last week, 500 export stimulation fund, 220 billion SME fund development, business development fund for women managed by Bank of Industry, SME Council at federal and state level, National Enterprise Development Fund, National Industrial Revolution Program, Risk Sector Support Fund, 500 billion, Creative Industry, the entertainment and other. They have Share Petroleum Development Fund for SMEs with Gofi Nigeria, 500 billion on export program for NEPC. And out of this, we are talking of export development fund that people are still filling from today, expired by the SME. What of the billions of naira and dollar in NACCIMA, announced 2 weeks ago by the MD of NACCIMA for women and youth, and the billions in Afrexim in Egypt. So this is our opportunity. The only thing is that we lack the SME don't have the communication. Why some of them cannot access this is that they are not registered with CAC. So what are state development centers? I can give you a good example of what is happening in Delta State, in Asaba. What a cluster cooperative put together by Ministry of Science and Technology, we call TIC, Raw Material Research and Development Council to assist in the area of import substitution. What of the Industrial Training Fund for building capacity? What of Bank of Industry, National Economic Reconstruction Fund, Small and Medium Scale Enterprises, SMEs, National Agency for Science and Technology Infrastructure, NACCIMA, Federal Institute for Industrial Research, OSHOD is open every day. Those in Lagos, Mrs. Elamon did a wonderful job there, and Mrs. Achagba is equally doing what Mrs. Elamon left behind. National Civil Council, the one in Zaria, Nigerian Export Bank, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture. Just find out where are these packages. Federal Ministry of Government Support, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Technology, National Board for Technical Incubation, Industrial Development Center, Nigerian Investment Promotion Council. All these things are set up. They have section for the SMEs. But the SMEs have to pull themselves together. This chain was developed by my group in UNIDO, what we call conduit of excellence. If you do business, there must be a handshake. If the product is coming from Zaria, we should be able to trace it back to Zaria. What give a product the premium price is identification. Those who are working on this upstream should know those who are the midstream. Those who are the midstream who are processors should know the type of registration, the type of packaging, the type of approval before it's aligned to the local market and export. And this is an example of SMEs to run this business without rejection. Good packaging. You should know the quantity of your products in a container. Areas of possible investment, services. There are a lot of Nigerian processors across the world. There are a lot of Nigerian professors, engineers, doctors, and others. If Nigerian doctors today in the UK, America, say they are not going to work, the entire American health system will be in crisis. But the question is that we have not been able to put a loop in place that a certain percentage of what you earn should come to Nigeria. Because the money we are borrowing comes from the sweat of Nigerians outside this country. So the service industry has not been actually looked at. Petroleum, we are number 6, between 6 and 8 in the world. Nigeria is more of a gas country. Petroleum exploration started in 1908. And the Italians that came stopped in 1914, not because of the amalgamation, but because of the First World War. They came back again in 1936, worked for another 20 years. In 1956, oil was discovered. We started exporting crude right from 1958. And what were we exporting? 90% of what we're producing. Today, where are we? The refineries working? We still need the SMEs because one, there's what you call linkages in business. And today, if OPEC allocation is 2 million per day, divide by the number 200 million Nigeria, based on the exchange rate, what you and me entitled to in the oil business is less than 200 naira a day. That shows Nigeria is still a very poor country because we are exporting crude and importing finished products. to the midstream, when you talk of the pipeline, the refineries, are they up to date? The area where we are very strong is the area of the downstream of selling of filling station over the place. Agric, Nigeria, SME, government, and everybody should look at the agric. In 1900, Nigeria was producing 50% of the total palm oil requirement. When we got independence in 1960, 27%. As I'm talking to you now, Nigeria is contributing less than 2% to the world, and we are consuming 4%. Our price is over 200% above the world market price. This is the area the SME should look at. Because palm oil, look at Malaysia. Malaysia is not as big from Lagos to Asaba. What is the population? 30 million. And they made over 35 billion last year, more than the Nigerian total reserve. And if you look at share butter, we are #1 producer in the world. Contribution to GDP is 0. Nigeria contributes 72% of the total yam export. As I'm talking to you, Nigeria cannot export yam. If the SMEs can come together and develop market and all that, we will be rolling out containers. Yam, if you look at cassava, we produce 40% of the world total, and we are importing starch. I can give you cashew nuts, which is a lamentable story. 1,000 per FOB. You go to Indonesia and US, and what you see in the fermenters, these are opportunity for the SME. The solid minerals, Nigeria has 55 identified. What is the contribution? Less than 0.03%, where solid mineral is contributing 30% to the economy of South Africa. This is the area where we should live for the SMEs. What of the current intervention on COVID-19? The private sector the SMEs should look at it, that there is still hope in the horizon. For us to succeed as a nation, as SME, first thing we should consider is that we need a multimodal transport system. But we don't have a multimodal because the railway system does not connect the port. They are working on it. The railway system did not connect any airport in Nigeria. There is no area where you use train with the same ticket with this and buses and all that. For us to reduce costs and help the SME, we need a multimodal. Our port should be equipped with modern equipment. Export or business should be on a single window. Customs should face import and export, not target on import alone and say we have made 1 billion. What have you made on the other side? When you are talking of business, balance of trade and balance of trade is import and export. Airports, where the equipment, do you have a cold room? Other countries, they export vegetable, they export fruits and all that. Where is the cold room in our airport? When they take Ugu and all that from Benin, midnight, get to Lagos by 4 a.m. That thing will be under the sun before it get to the aircraft site midnight. It gets to England, half of it is cooked. Do you know the quantity of fufu you eat in Lagos, in Aba, that leads to Benin on daily basis? They are their records. The railway line, we have to look at it. The silo, the cold room, the warehousing, the storage, the aggregators or center, like the old commodity board. What the Western region used at that time was commodity board. It's not seminar, workshop, or Zoom. We cannot use Zoom to run agriculture. Agriculture has to be on the commodity board. I work in the system in Kenya. I saw what happened in Tanzania. I saw what happened when they failed in Malawi. But today, we are not still ready to learn. Ethiopia, when you talk of commodity exchange, they are the best in the world. Ivory Coast has done a lot. If all what I'm saying, to run a business, these are books I've put together, which for members to look at. If it's not important to you, it's important to other people. Your children will take a new direction. Your wife who has retired wants to see what lies in the horizon. Nigeria does not read, but you can develop that culture because information is not on anybody's lap. The book you are seeing up there, the research work took me 15 years to 55 countries. The last one was more or less my presentation at Oxford University, like what I'm doing to you. A lot have benefited from it. Next slide. In conclusion, I believe that if one is interested in establishing SME for self-help, you have seen for you what the opportunity to leverage on. Some people will say university is too difficult. Some of us went there and we came back. We did not tell our junior brother, don't go there, it's difficult. And secondly, what of the A to Z in business? If you talk of export, export is the opposite side of import. It's like a coin. When one is buying, the other one is selling. And before you do any business in Nigeria, one, you should define the business you want to do. Let me give you the A to Z in business. The first thing you think of is the type of business you want to do, the information and the structure you have in ground. How do you break the barrier? You need information. Contact people like us, don't copy and paste. Because if you go to the port, you go to the river, you see a lot of vehicle container abandoned. Just see what of the type of business, the management you want to put in place, because you need a driver. Then you are talking of sending goods to other people. And if you are into business, local, international, don't just give out your analysis or send product. Start with a sample. Because for any business to succeed, there must be a pull at one end. This is what I want. This is what I have. It will tell you this is what I want. You can make modification. E, what is the procedure of doing business? Is it like the way we beat traffic light here? You send goods to somebody outside your shore or within. If you don't have a fixed address and all that, he has every right not to pay you. Documentation is important. What of commercial and non-commercial export? Like when you are going for trade fair, you carry goods as sample and all that. It's not the same thing when you do actual commercialization. You have to pay duty. What of the permit, the registration for CAC, Export Promotion Council, NACCIMA, all those things? You need to. These days, you can no longer forge another person's signature or forge another person's document. What of products under prohibition? You don't bring products under prohibition into the country, and you don't send products or goods under prohibition. If you are operating under the EPZ, export processes zone, is a different story. Those things are not even allowed. How do you find a partner? Do you use people like us? Do you use the embassy? Do you need the ambassador? Then what of transport? Even the transport, you have Incoterm and all that. FOB is different from CIF. If it's transport, even if you are talking about transit, when you talk of now you are talking of transit. Niger Republic has equal right to use your port. Niger Republic was not created as Niger Republic by God. God created us in our own loose groupings. Under the WTO, there's what we call trade facilitation. It is a crime. It's not right to close a border because border does not belong to you. Border was formed by colonial masters and politicians. And if you look at border, there are 6 types of border in the world. Militarized border, demilitarized border. What we sign into in ECOWAS is just a simple border. Then, when you now talk of organization, how do you have your management team? See, everybody you employ, you bring some people from outside to help. Then what of planning? You must plan tomorrow, next tomorrow, short term, middle term, and all that. What of competition? Competitors could be at home. It could be outside because other goods are coming. What type of research system do you have in place to look at what lies beyond the horizon? The type of Incoterm every 10 years, Incoterm must change. Every 5 years, trade policy of a nation must change. Nigeria has a foreign policy since 1960. And our foreign policy, we have a foreign policy objective, we have a foreign policy strategy. We don't have a foreign policy strategy. If we have a foreign policy strategy, for a Chinese to open a shop here, Nigeria must open a shop in China. Or what we did in Liberia and Sierra Leone in Gambia, by today, Nigeria does not need to apply to be this thing. Then, what of joint venture and all that? When you sign an agreement with Chinese, because business is head or tail, because it's a superpower does not mean that you take head and tail and ask you to devalue your currency. When you now sign an agreement, 500 US dollar, tomorrow they devalue. Based on the agreement, you go and use 1,000 to secure goods to go and sell 500 naira. Then when you talk of fee, what of packaging, containerization? People don't sit down to do simple calculation because business is 2 + 2 = 4. It's not an assumption. If we are expecting a miracle, that one, God will help us. Because it is the will of God that we live. And God give us rain. God created us in his own image. But there are certain things you must do on your own. What of trade agreements? Nigeria has signed more than 600 trade agreements and the economy is still very weak. In this agreement, who is representing the SMEs? Then, what of the standards? Standard of a product is not determined by you, it's determined by the buyer. There are three ways of determining standard. We call so-called MDAs in Nigeria say you must not import detergent without perfume because it's for 5% import duty in that country. And if I have to export with perfume, it becomes a finished product. It was going as this thing. That was what the buyer required. If I want to export cocoa today and I'm exporting cocoa butter, you now tell me to go and give chocolate to somebody who has reason whether to produce cocoa liquor or cocoa wine with that. What of informal sector? This is the area that the SMEs are facing, that they are not growing. How do we put a system in place with the modern day technology, begin to normalize great trade, commodity shorting, all groups? Sometimes they say smuggling. Smuggling is that when you are exporting or you are doing anything within, when there's inappropriate documentation, you bring in 20 containers, you put to that. Commodity shunting is that you load your goods, you cross border. Then great trade is that you move with the support of people who are selling across the border. Sometimes when we say we are closing border without smuggling, if we go to court, we will not win because it takes two to tango. How do you secure a foreign order? You don't just jump into business in one day. You find out the background of the person you are dealing with. It is possible for one person to be in 3 countries in one day. And with the telephone these days, when we are using the table telephone, when I'm calling from Aba, you know I'm in Aba. When I'm calling from Abuja, but today you don't know where the man who is calling you from. Post office box is not outdated. In some countries of the world, they still insist that you must have a table telephone to know where you are. Then, what of the WTO agreement or the WTO? Today, we have the Secretary General or the Director General of the WTO. It's like having a principal. We are students in the same school where we have the principal, we must take the same exam because you cannot lower the bar. What of additional? Who is African Development Bank? Who is pursuing the 4th Industrial Revolution? What of Orama? Who is in Egypt? How many countries have this opportunity? So my concluding part is that there is hope for the SMEs. You don't jump into business. Get information. Learn from those who have stayed that way. Don't say because I am connected, I am this, I am that. That is not. I have given you the opportunities. I have shown you what to leverage on. As I'm talking to you now, NACCIMA is doing a lot. Women and children. Nigeria Export Promotion Council is doing a lot, and so on and so forth. But those who cannot access some of these things are those who are not registered with the appropriate government agencies. I have come up with books going around this country, building capacity of people that there are opportunities of local market and export. And those who have bought my books, very soon I will start Zoom training for them every Saturday, 2 hours on how to go about business registration, formation, how to sell locally, how to look at standards, the appropriate accreditation agencies, export market, what is needed for us to drive the Africa Continental Free Trade. Those who are interested in me, my books and all that, that is my email box, and we'll continue to talk. Thank you very much.